Well, this is the part of the show, right, where I do Showtime, which is where I talk about shows that I'm into. But Unpacked is back again. So we're doing Married at First Sight, Unpacked. And if you don't know what Married at First Sight is, it's a program where singles get put together and they get married. And I've got a special guest here with me today. Her name's Charlene, and she is the intimacy coach. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Very welcome.
Well, so there's so much to get into, especially from this week. I feel like so much has happened. I feel like something that's never happened on the show has happened before, but I don't know if it's happened on the show before, so I don't want to say it's never happened.
Okay.
Anyways, we'll get into that after.
Okay.
Let's get into this season. So everybody gets grouped up and they get married, coupled up, and then they get married. And I feel like everybody was saying baby to each other so quickly this year. Like everyone's like, oh, baby, my baby, within like the first episode.
Yeah.
How do you react to that?
I mean, it kind of starts like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, where everyone's like high energy, it's all fun, lots of physical attraction. And then the drama kicks in.
Definitely. Definitely. So yeah, everybody was calling each other baby. And there was one couple in particular that got very intimate very quickly. Brad and Shona.
Yes.
And I don't feel like it ended well for them. So basically, they got intimate within a couple days of their honeymoon. And it started going downhill because Brad started showing some sort of controlling tendencies. And Shona was kind of, backing down to him. It just wasn't nice to watch on TV. As an expert that watches it, how does that feel for you? Like seeing couples that are kind of getting toxic and knowing that you guys put them together? And
Well, I suppose it's uncomfortable to watch, and we made sure that we supported both of them throughout the whole process so that it was as healthy as it could be.
Yeah.
And then when it got to a stage where we felt like actually this process is a bit too much for you, they were then asked to leave, and they completely understood the reasons for that.
Yeah, I feel like Shona, when you guys actually told her, it was like she had a heart attack. She was like, and it made me sad for her because I feel like she has that attachment to him. In that, I was going to ask you, but these are questions that I set up even before I saw that they got basically kicked off. But in the sort of circumstance that someone shows that they might have some sort of narcissistic tendencies or like toxic tendencies, is that the first step to just tell them to leave? Is that what you do in any occasion?
I think with all of the couples, we give everyone a chance. We give them advice and guidance. We work with them individually.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if we're not seeing the change that we need to see, then we will ask them to leave. And remember, they are still supported. So they may not be on camera, but they are still supported by the team. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of putting the couples together, so if you just tune in and you're listening, basically Married at First Sight is where couples get put together and they get married literally at first sight. So they will turn around and meet their wife or husband at the altar. So you guys put them together. Now, I always think to myself, when you put them together, is it you guys as the experts that put the couples together, or do producers have an input?
Well, the experts put them together like 100%, but of course, it is important for the wider team to make sure that the people that we put together are suitable, in terms of suitable for TV, that, they are good people in inverted commas, so there are lots of checks that need to happen. But ultimately, in terms of like their interests, their values, compatibility, intimacy, compatibility as well, right? That's what we do.
Right. Yeah. And so when you put them together, obviously there's two other experts that help you out as well. But in terms of intimacy, how would you tell that before even meeting them?
Well, you can hear how someone talks about the world of intimacy.
Right.
You can, who initiates, who doesn't initiate, how important it is for them in the relationship, what they want moving forward, what they've had in the past. So there's a lot that we can look at around intimacy and the role that it plays for people in relationships. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of couples that are good in terms of intimacy, but there's also a couple that was struggling in terms of intimacy. That's Arthur and, what was her name?
So I don't think it was Arthur and Laura. So
no, it was
Peggy and George.
No, it wasn't Peggy and George.
Struggling a little bit.
No, it was look at me not remembering
Roz
their
and
name.
Thomas.
Roz and Thomas, exactly.
Yes, okay.
Yes, they were struggling. And did you find that when you work with couples that there are a lot of instances where someone will try and get intimate so that they can feel a connection to someone, and then it doesn't work out? Because that's basically what happened. She ended up trying to be intimate with him, and it didn't go well at first.
I think if you're on the receiving end of that cannot feel great, as we saw with Thomas. But I think with Roz is such a lovely person, and you see that she cries quite a lot if she feels like she's hurt someone. She never wants to hurt anybody. And I think she did regret doing that, you know, but there are lots of people that have done that, rightly or wrongly, because they just think maybe it'll kind of show for sure whether they like someone or not. I'm not saying it's right though.
No, I don't think it's right at all, because it doesn't work out either way. Even if you did get intimate and it did work out for you, I feel like you'd have a little bit of guilt. And you'd look back and be like, oh, well, I didn't really, you know. But
like you said, there are some people that weren't sure about a partner. They maybe slept together, and then that kind of created that shifted something in their connection. So it is possible that it could happen. But it's just not nice if it doesn't work well, if it doesn't work out very well.
So in terms of you, who was probably the hardest couple to work with in terms of intimacy?
I wouldn't say that any of them were hard to work with.
Oh, you're being too nice.
I think that, you know, like for example, say Peggy and George, like they have, they are, I think, compatible in a lot of ways. But what you can see is that, you know, for maybe Peggy, she wants to wait a little bit more, and George is happy to do it straight away. So it's kind of negotiating that with them and working out what works best for them. So they're all my babies.
How would you go about that though, in terms of someone who's a bit more explicit with the way that they are intimacy wise, and then someone who doesn't like to talk about their sexual preferences or whatever? How would you make them more comfortable with each other? Like, what are the steps?
So there's lots of open communication that's required, lots of compromise and negotiation. So the person that maybe is a bit too full on might need to hold back a little bit. The person that's a little bit shy maybe needs to sort of step out their comfort zone and do little things. And then you create a world of intimacy that works for you. Like, you don't have to do it based on what's happened in your past relationships. This is a new relationship, new experiences. Right,
exactly. So in terms of Portia, I'm going all around the world. Portia and Terence, because I just remembered what happened. What happens is we have kind of like a recoupling. What do they call it? The commitment ceremony that happens once a week. And the couples will get together and they say they want to stay or leave. However, if one person says they want to stay and the other person says they want to leave, they have to stay. Now, this happened this week with Terence and Portia, where Portia said she wanted to stay and Terence said he wanted to leave. And in a usual case, they would have to stay. But Terence said, no, I'm leaving. I'm actually leaving. And there was a lot of convincing, and he said it about 4 times. I'm leaving. I don't care.
I think Terence knew he was going. He was like, I'm out of here. No, I get that. Like, the rules, of course, that, you know, if one person says stay and the other person says leave, then they have to stay. But we can't like force people to stay, right? Like, we can encourage them to stay. But some people, they get to a point where they're like, oh no, I've had enough. And I think Terence was there.
But to be fair, I'm siding with Terence, because I feel like Portia, she knows what she's doing in terms of bringing the drama. She knows what she's doing in terms of when she kissed four of the... Did she kiss the husbands? Because we don't actually know. We never saw anything on camera.
To be honest, we don't know the details. And I think for us, we're not so interested in those details. I think it's more about what's the boundary within your relationship. Is this something that you've agreed or not? And it kind of felt like it wasn't agreed beforehand.
Definitely
So that, for us, was the issue.
And she didn't want to take accountability as much. I feel like she always makes it so that everybody feels sorry for her. There was one point where, what did she say? She said something like, he really upset her in terms of the spoon comment. So if you're listening, you don't understand what's going on. Basically, they was at the table at their honeymoon and she wanted a spoon. She asked one of the waiters and her husband said to her, oh, but I've got a spoon here. And she's like, well, I don't want that spoon. And he said, oh, well, that's childish. And she stormed off and cried and made this whole scene about him calling her childish, which to me, I feel like you guys were too soft on her for that. Because I feel like,
What do you think you should have done?
I feel like you guys should have been like, that's not a comment. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal. You should take accountability for what you done in being rude to him.
I hear you, but however, if something is triggering for somebody, it is important to acknowledge and to recognise. And, you know, the spoon might have been something very basic for some people, but it could have triggered others. And I think what we wanted was for Terence to acknowledge that it triggered Portia and to apologise, which he did. But also for Portia to acknowledge that actually there are things that I've done in this relationship that haven't been great as well.
I don't feel like she got there. No. I don't. Because there was a point where she said, what did she say? Oh, she said, what have I done to warrant such disdain? What?
I have to say, it did break my heart when I saw her upset because, you know, we don't want anyone to be upset. And Portia really wanted to meet someone and she wanted to settle down.
Yeah.
So I did feel a bit sorry for her, to be honest. And
really?
I did. And also,
you know what? You know them personally. That's why we don't have that sort of thing. We have a sort of narrative that's played out on TV in terms of we don't know them in person. So maybe you have a right to feel sorry for her. But for me, I'm like, what?
Well, there's a bit of both. I definitely feel sorry for her because I know she really wanted to make this work.
Yeah.
But I do feel like there were areas where she could have taken responsibility, which I shared with her.
Yeah.
And I think which she acknowledged as well.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when everyone is saying you're wrong, your defences go up. So maybe she was just in a space of feeling a bit defensive.
Yeah.
Upon reflection, I'm sure that she's able to sort of acknowledge her role in this a little bit as well. They're both to blame.
Yeah. Definitely, I think they're both to blame. But at the same time, I feel bad. No, honestly, like, I don't like having men's back a lot of the time because men don't deserve it. But I feel like in this circumstance, I feel like she wasn't held up to the fire as much as she could have been held up to the fire. And I feel like even everybody making him say sorry to her straight away kind of took away from him because he was like, but no one's listening to the fact that this actually really frustrated me. And I feel like he was in a place where he's really frustrated in terms of always having to apologize.
Remember as well, there's a lot crammed into 60 minutes, right? So there's a lot more that happened.
Yeah.
And I can categorically say that Portia was also spoken to about her role in this as much as Terence was as well. But it's hard, isn't it, for the producers to kind of cram everything into 60 minutes. So they try to reflect as accurately as they can what really happened.
Yeah. Okay, well, Terence left. That's what happened. Yes. He left. And you know what? I don't disagree with him for leaving. But I do actually feel bad for Portia. When he left, that's when I was like, oh, it is quite sad. But at the same time, Portia, you kissed 4 guys. What did you do? Do you know what I mean? Like,
we don't know for sure it was 4 guys.
Well, yeah,
though, right?
Allegedly. Because George said that, so we don't actually know if it's true. So, anyways, moving on to George. Peggy and George, I feel like they're in such different places in terms of intimacy. And you were saying earlier that you try and make it work for them, but honestly, do you feel like a couple that is completely like opposites can make a relationship work?
Yes, but I don't think that George and Peggy are complete opposites when it comes to intimacy. I think what we're seeing is that George is saying things that are a little bit crude sometimes. Yeah. That's great when you're with the lads down the pub.
Right.
But, you know, oftentimes guys know that when they're with their woman, maybe those are not the things to say.
Yeah.
And so you will see George really take that on board.
Yeah.
And Peggy, you know, Peggy likes to be intimate too. Like she likes to
I think she
have
does.
fun.
Yeah.
But there's a way that she likes that to be done. And, you know, it's just about George, you know, being able to listen and tap into that.
Yeah. Okay. But do you feel like there's like a middle ground that they can meet on? Because I feel like George is so out there. She's so private with it. Is there like a middle ground where she can appreciate his humor or appreciate him being like entertaining with it?
Yeah, and I think she does, but I think there are times that George has to kind of cool it down just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Because, you know, I do this for a living. I talk about intimacy every day, right?
Yeah.
But there are definitely things that George said where I was like, oh my gosh, did he just say that?
Yeah.
But even I was like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh, you just said that. That was what you just said. So, you know, I do think that there are times that he needs to calm it down. But you know what? Like, Peggy absolutely like loves George, right? Like, he is really cheeky and really funny, and he adores her.
Yeah.
And that's what you can see. He really adores her, and you saw that when he defended her at the dinner party.
Definitely,
you know, he was like,
he was going off.
My mate was talking French.
Yes, I couldn't believe it. I was like, he was coming like Will Smith.
Yeah. Wow. I mean,
keep my wife's name out your mouth, basically.
Yeah, and thankfully it didn't continue.
Yeah, he didn't actually assault anybody.
He didn't do anything. No,
but he did threaten.
Yeah.
Which was what do you do in that situation? Because he actually did kind of threaten them. So as an expert, would you step in and say, right, this is, apologize to them because that was wrong? Or do you kind of
so what you will see, so we then have obviously the commitment ceremony, so you will see some of this play out. Well, I say that you will see, I'm hoping that that's going to be shown, that you'll see these conversations kind of played out. But of course, you know, like I said, lots more happens behind the scenes, but ultimately, as you can see, George and Portia, they don't really get
along. Yeah. And you know what? I kind of miss Portia now because she's gone and the entertainment's kind of gone, but it hasn't left. But I feel like Portia, if she was in that situation where Erica and Ella and Tasha had that argument, it would have been completely different.
In what way?
In the way of, I think Portia would have seen it from Erica's standpoint. instead of Tasha's, and maybe that would even set a fire alight even more.
Well, the whole Erica Tasha situation, if I'm honest, I still don't know what that's about.
Yeah, it's very strange.
It doesn't make sense. Nothing. So I feel like there's maybe something that had happened that we didn't see. I don't know.
I think that I think Tasha is so fixated on wanting to be the best couple there that anybody that doesn't think that she's the best couple there or seems to threaten her might have been the trigger for her, because it doesn't seem like anything else. And Erica's saying it's because she's pretty and they're insecure. Maybe it is that, I don't know. But I think that the fact that Erica kind of said, well, I haven't seen you and Paul together, so I don't know if you're a good match, I think that kind of dug at Tasha.
Probably. I think the thing is, look, Erica and Tasha are both beautiful girls, right? And their relationships are going well.
Yeah.
For now.
Oh no. Don't say this.
And it may continue, it may not.
Oh no.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's going really, really well. So maybe there is a little bit of, insecurity there, a bit of competition, I don't know. But I'm really hoping that they can make it up, because they are both fantastic women. So
yeah. So what's the most difficult couple? Who's the most difficult couple you've worked with in the entire series? Because you've been in there for 3 seasons now. And I know there was one where you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do?
I have to say, I love the challenge of working with all of them. Absolutely. Yeah. They are so much fun to work with. And, they're like our babies. We want to make sure that they're happy, safe, and they're not super nervous or uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
But, I wouldn't say anyone's really challenging and such. I think the person that comes to my mind, if I'm honest, was probably Kwame from last season.
Really? And I just spoke to him last week.
He's adorable. He wasn't difficult at all. But it was more like, there was that comment that he made where it was like, I'm good now, I don't need the experts. Where I remember thinking, okay, Charlene, you're on television, like, manage your face expression, because I'm really expressive, right? Yeah. My face says everything that I'm thinking. Yep. So I remember thinking, Kwame, did you just say that? Did you really just say that?
Yeah.
So that was the one that kind of came to my mind. But absolutely adorable.
He was very difficult, but he doesn't seem to think he was difficult at all.
No, not at all.
Not at all,
no.
Which makes me laugh. It makes it even more hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know why you don't see the little bits of Portia that we see though behind the scenes, because I feel like we're not behind the scenes with the audience, but I feel like there's a lot of overacting with Portia, like certain things she's saying to the camera. She'll be in the commitment ceremony and she'll be saying something really dramatic and crying, and she's looking at the camera, and I'm like, are we?
But remember, for some of the remember, for some of these people, this is the first time that they've done TV work as well. So, no one sort of teaches you how to do this, really. You're just like, sort of,
thrown in.
There you go. There's your husband, there's your wife. And, obviously we support them from an emotional and mental point of view. But it isn't easy to do. Yeah. And so, I did feel sorry for them. I think Portia tried her best. Maybe she's quite dramatic in the way that she expresses things, but I think it comes from a place of hurt. When she's hurt, she lets you know. Yeah. And I felt like the tears were real, know, so I did feel sorry for her at times.
Yeah, and obviously, that, as I keep reiterating, them personally. Yeah. So that's why we're getting a proper insight here. Because from TV, it looks absolutely like crazy, but then when you come, it makes it make sense. It makes it make complete sense.
I think the thing is, even with the Terence Portia situation, like, Portia of course had a role to play. Terence walked into a room and didn't say hello to Portia, which could trigger anybody, right? If I had a partner and then he came in and he's saying hello to everyone, not me, I would be quite hurt by that. But I'd also have to look at what would happen if he had said hello to me. Would I have turned my face away or
exactly?
And
he tried to apologise to her, and she completely aired him.
She was in a really hurt space at that time.
Yeah,
so that's quite difficult for her to accept that. Yeah.
Anyways, I feel like it was best for both of them to part ways, because I feel like as much as there were positives in why they were matched, I think the negatives just outweighed it at some point.
It's a shame though, because I feel like it would be so nice to have a black love story as well. And
why have we not got that? Kwame, then we had these lots. Why have we not got that yet?
Yeah, well, hopefully one day soon it will happen. I think with Portia and Terence, there's so much that could have worked well for them, but they weren't able to get past the conflict and Yeah. Just when you think it's kind of all over with the whole Spoongate thing,
Yeah.
then this whole spin the bottle comes up. And that was a game that they organised. It wasn't like, you know, experts saying, let's do this game. Like, this is what they had organised. So it's like,
we don't see
where's this come
anything.
from?
We didn't see anything.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, so everyone's come back and now they're explaining this game and
Yeah.
you don't know what, and that's how you knew it wasn't real. It wasn't fake. It wasn't made for television.
Right.
This was a real game that happened.
Oh yeah, this was a real game.
But another question I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
Do the experts see more than we think they see? Because on television, it looks like you guys just see the restaurant bit and the regroup, and that's it.
We do.
You don't see any of them actually interacting.
No.
alone.
So the weddings and the honeymoons, we see it when you guys see it. So we didn't know all of what happened.
Right.
Of course, the producers might let us know like some of the key things that have happened. And then that kind of helps us in terms of the questions we ask at the commitment ceremonies. But there's a lot of things that I see when you guys see it, and I'm just like, if I'd seen now, I would have asked them a little bit more, a few more questions there, you know? So, yeah, so we see the dinner parties, and the commitment ceremonies is when we dig deep into what's been going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so is there anything that you can tell us, or any bit of juice you can spill for the people that want to know what's going to happen soon, or someone to look out for?
Well, you know, the intruder couples have come in, so the new set of couples have come in, and I feel like they've kind of come in a little bit quietly at the moment. Well, apart from the Erica Tasha story. Let's just say that there is definitely going to be some juicy stuff going on over the next few weeks. So I obviously can't share that.
I know. I'm just trying my hardest to get anything.
And you looked at me waiting for an answer like, you know, I can answer that. But it does get really juicy over the next week or two.
Okay.
In fact, I think next week is when it really kicks off.
Okay. All right. So in terms of you, because you're an intimacy coach without and with Married at First Sight, right? So how does your day-to-day look in terms of when you're not when it's not airing, when you're not filming?
Hectic.
Really?
Well, only because at the moment I'm doing some work with the NHS, so I'm working with an organisation that help people that have stomas, you know, so they're like colostomy bags.
Yeah.
And to help patients to have conversations around intimacy, and to help nurses to feel more confident speaking to patients around intimacy, because it can be quite a difficult topic.
Yeah.
So I'm working on that at the moment.
Wow.
I've got a podcast coming up soon, which I'm really excited about. Like, I'm so excited about this podcast because I feel like I get to say whatever I want.
Definitely.
And I'm in control of the edit.
Definitely.
So we are going to be talking about proper topics.
Right.
We're going to talk about everything.
You get all the dilemmas sent to you too.
All the dilemma, but also I'm going to be sharing some of my journey as well, because I feel like, you know.
Yeah, tell us about the intimacy coach. Is she single? What's going on? She is right now.
Right now.
Okay.
I mean, I'm dating, but I'm not in a commit. I'm not married, let's say.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm having fun. Whatever that means. I feel like when I say that, people think
it's just like
one thing that they're thinking, but you know, I'm having fun. But I do very much believe in relationships and love healthy relationships, might I add. So, you know, I, similar to a lot of people that I know, have had some very unhealthy relationships that have had an impact on emotional well-being and mental health.
Yeah.
So I promote it from the rooftops that if you are going to get into a relationship, make sure that it makes you feel like a queen or a king. You know, like that's where you should be at.
Yeah.
Don't just be in a relationship for the sake of being in a relationship.
Well, there's this whole stigma that when you've been in a relationship for a certain amount of time, that the intimacy is just going to go down or you guys are going to get bored. Is this true? Because
no, it doesn't have to be true. The thing is, I feel like people just, when they get into a relationship, they feel like the relationship should just happen after that, as opposed to intentionally making an effort, going on dates, you know, going online to look for, you know, ways that you could be more romantic.
Yeah.
People just kind of get a bit bored of it after that. And then you get the classic, oh, we grew apart. And it's like, you grew apart because you haven't really made much effort with the relationship, in the same way that you maybe would make an effort when you're at work to get promoted, you know, and to strengthen your skill set. People are not doing that with relationships. They're not reading books or podcasts to learn how to do it differently or better. And so I think that's the key in terms of keeping the spark and the intimacy alive in a relationship.
And what kind of couples come to you the most? Like, what's the most common situation that you see that comes to you and then people are like, oh yeah, I don't know. What is the most common thing that
so
comes
I would
to
say
you?
it would usually be like low sex drive. So it'd be like one person is not really up for it and the other person is. That's usually kind of what happens. And then my work is kind of explore what is going on here, like what's really going on. So people will be like, I mean, we've got a good relationship and we talk all the time and etc, etc. It's just this area. Right. And straight away for me, it's like warning, because no, it's not just that area. It's some other things are going on. You don't trust each other, someone's feeling disrespected, and that's what it's about, like in terms of exploring what's really going on.
And what's your top tips for people that feel like they're disconnected from their partner, or their partner has high sex drive and they have low sex drive? Where do you meet in the middle? You've
got to address it. I think a lot of people avoid having this conversation, but you have to address it. Spend some time together and establish like what works for you and what doesn't in the bedroom, you know, and then kind of find a common ground. And if you really struggle with that, then I would say get some outside help, like speak to an intimacy coach or a psychosexual therapist. I've worked with clients before and they're like, I don't know why I didn't come to see you like years ago. Really? Because I'm asking the questions that they are maybe a bit afraid of asking. So and I'm getting to the root of like what's really going on. And then when they're not being honest, I say, look, let me meet with you individually so we can dig deep. And then I find out what's really going on. And then we can work from there.
And then, sorry, just to jump back to Married at First Sight, 'cause I'm all over the place. In terms of, I can't remember his name right now, but there's a couple where he's not attracted to his wife.
JJ and Bianca.
JJ and Bianca, exactly. What do you do in that situation as an expert? What do you do when you see that someone's not attracted and it might actually be affecting the other person? Because I feel like at first she was away with the fairies. She had absolutely no idea. And I felt so bad for her because she was actually trying to be intimate. She was taking them steps and he was just like making every excuse in the book. What do you do?
So Bianca is the sweetest girl ever and she deserves the absolute best. I just want to start by saying that she's so dignified and so lovely.
Oh no, she's so sweet. I know what's going to happen now. She's so kind. JJ is also quite polite as well. So what we want to see is a couple that is working on it, being open, you know, not sort of sticking to like, this is my type from back in the day, but more like, this is my type from back in the day, but like now I'm keen to kind of get to know a different type of person. And well, we'll see. We'll see if he is, but at the moment he's showing that he's not that open to it.
But we know with Married at First Sight, everything changes, right? So there are times where there are couples that aren't so great at the beginning and you really see them kind of sort of build and working together towards the end because they've sort of taken on the advice. And of course, other couples where that isn't quite
things change so quickly in a week. Like everything changes. You can be watching it and everybody's fine next week.
And that really did happen. I have to say that. Like commitment ceremony number like 1, couples are like, we're getting on really well. We're happy, and we're like, okay, cool. Like this is great. The second week, it's like one comes in by themselves, or like the other one's not talking to the other person. I'm just like, what happened? What happened in a week?
Exactly. Back to you being an intimacy coach. How did you get there?
So I trained as a psychodynamic counsellor. So I'm a therapist, you know, sort of working with all issues, anxiety, addiction, etc. And then a few years ago I was like, actually I want to specialise in this, so kind of like the intimacy side of things. And I've been doing so much research on it beforehand because I'd worked with like young people around like how to have healthy relationships and how to, you know, use the right types of contraception, etc. And all of those conversations were always in my mind. And I was like, those conversations that I had with the young people are not really that different from the conversation I'm having with adults. Everyone's lost. No, everyone's making it up as they go along, right? And I was just like, you know what? I want to help people to be authentic. I want, in particular, women to have a good experience in the bedroom.
Because I feel like when it comes to women, there's this whole like idea that we are giving something to a man. We're giving a part of ourselves away instead of just engaging in an act together. I feel like there's this whole stigma from when you're young of like, oh, you're going to give it to him. You're going to, you know, give a part of you away. And it's like, we're not giving a part away. It's about changing that mindset, I guess, isn't it?
100%. I mean, you said it like perfectly there, like literally. I feel like we kind of learn these things from like parents and grandparents where it's like, you know, like in heterosexual relationships, like the guy always wants it and the woman just gives it to him to keep him quiet. But I'm saying to women, like, how about enjoying this now for yourself? Like, how about being a bit selfish and saying, do you know what? I don't want to do that to you because I don't like it. It does nothing for me. And in fact, it turns me off if that is your reality. But what I would like is for you to do X, Y, Z to me. You know, because that turns me on, you know? And I feel like women, sometimes we're not so confident to have those conversations, to say those things. We're a bit like, oh my gosh, is he going to think I'm a little bit of a freak? Or is he going to, and I'm just like,
So what?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
If he thinks that, he thinks that.
Lastly, before you go, what is coming for you next? I know you said you're working with the NHS at the moment. You said you got the podcast. Tell us a bit more about what's next for Charlene.
So that's a really good question. So I would definitely like to do more work with young people around this topic.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, I'm not saying that adults are a lost cause. I don't believe that at all, because I feel like there's still work to do there. But I'm really passionate about starting, you know, with the younger people and helping them to understand the world of intimacy and to have more of a voice about what they want and what they don't want, create boundaries, making sure things are consensual, but enjoying this world of intimacy and really enjoying pleasure. So for me, I want to go back in schools, I want to go back into youth centres, and I want to work with young people.
It's making sense. We've all made it make sense. I mean, Married at First Sight, I don't know. It will make sense as it continues. It just confuses me. I'm like, 1 minute I'm in with this couple, next minute I can't stand them together. Brad and Shona, I loved them at the start. And then I was like, oh, this is really bad. And then Jess and George, I mean, not Jess and Peggy and George, brain. Yeah, I loved them, and now I'm like, oh, I don't know if I love George for her, because he seems a bit too sassy and just he likes drama a bit. I feel like he feeds off of drama as much as he's trying to get rid of that for her, and he seems very committed to that. I think it's not gonna work because he speaks up too much for her. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe it will.
But people can change and grow. And sometimes the more closer you become as a couple, the more you want to change certain parts of your character. So he could change.
They're willing, I guess. Anyways, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Very welcome. Very welcome.
I know, like, everything's been happening for you, so I wish the best for you, honestly.
Thank you. Much appreciated. So lovely speaking to you, so thank you for having me.